There it goes. Yeah, work smarter, not harder. I'm gonna use the winch to drag this thing out.
Man, look at the size difference between these vehicles. The CBR 1000 isn't that much smaller than the two-seater mini trophy truck. I mean, it's the trophy truck, the two-seater, it's got bigger tires, bigger frame, but the wheelbase isn't that much bigger than the CBR 1000. I think it's just the bigger tires and bigger frame make that thing look huge. So yeah, finally being able to see these things, not really side by side, but more just head to head, I guess.
Alright, we are finally continuing working on this project. I know we kind of took a little break from this thing for, I think, like what, a little over 2 months, I think. Yeah, we're finally back working on it. Now, I made a list of everything we need to do before we can disassemble this whole frame, weld it all together, then we can reassemble it, start working on wiring and plumbing and all that fun stuff. Now, we need to install the radiator, install the bump stops, dash bar. I want to raise this up a little bit more and move it a little bit further forward. Sway bar, secondary sway bar, I'll explain that later. Gas tank, finish cross bracing. I need to add more tubing here and there to strengthen the frame. Dashboard, we need to connect that up to that. And finish engine mounts. There's probably a couple other things I'm forgetting. Now, let's start working on the radiator first and get that installed. Alright, I'm not sure if this is gonna work, but I want to try it. Yeah, it's not that wide, but maybe if I just do it in a couple different sections, maybe I can get this to work. Well, it's definitely not the neatest job, but maybe I can clean it up. So this thing kind of looks like crap. I was able to kind of bend it, but I don't know. I wanted to try and bend it, so therefore I didn't have to weld these corners on. Already this piece wasn't big enough to do all 4 corners, so I'm gonna have to weld this side. And also, I made it a little bit too big. My calculations were a little bit off, and it's about like 1/16 of an inch too big on this side. So this, which side? This side, I kind of is the worst side. This is really dented in. I'm kind of thinking to fix this. Maybe I just cut this piece off, so therefore I can bring it in just a tiny little bit. I already have to weld one side, so I'll just weld 2 sides and get this to shape. Then we got to cut a giant hole in the center of this. I don't know. Part of me just kind of wants to like try again and not bend it, just weld it together. Welding is going to be a lot prettier. And it's gonna not have all these ugly, really bad scratch marks on the side and all of that. I mean, that looks fun. Should I just start over? It's gonna be on the bottom, so nobody's looking at it. But it's just, I don't know. This looks like crap. Yeah, let's try again. And instead of bending it, I'm just gonna weld it. All right, so I scored some lines in here, so that hopefully means that I weakened it enough to be able to use this bender that I made that isn't very strong. So nice, look at that. Boom! Look at that. I'm still gonna have to weld this because now it's cracked and it's super weak, and any vibration would this would fall off. But doesn't look too bad. Nice, look at that. Perfect circle. Alright, so I had to build a radiator shroud for this. I wanted to try and buy one, but I could not find one that would fit this, that had the holes and the proper spacing, so I decided to make one. Now, look at the girth this thing has. This thing, once we added the shroud and the fan, this thing is really thick. So I'm hoping I can still fit this in the frame now that I added this stuff. Also, this is a triple core radiator, so hopefully we'll have plenty of cooling capacity with this thing for this giant engine. So, because I wanted to try and find a really small radiator, but I wanted to still have plenty of cooling capacity, so I found one that is triple core. Now, yes, I did cut off the original inlet and outlet of this radiator. These are too big. We need to weld on the proper size that we need. These are 1 inch, and I believe the original was I think this is 1.5 inches, which is too big. Don't need those. We need to weld on the proper size. So once we get this installed in the frame, we'll weld on the new inlet and outlet, as well as relocate the radiator cap. Okay, this is really uncomfortable. Ouch. Oh man. Ouch. Alright, so I cut this hole out on top, so therefore we can mount the filler cap right about there. Oops. Dang it. Alright, filler cap is done. That's on there. Now we gotta do the inlet and outlet. I just finished machining this one. I had this one from a different project that I didn't use. So I just had to machine another one. So now we have the inlet and outlet. I'm not sure if I should put them in the original spots of where the original ones were, or should I move them higher or lower? Something. I don't know. I'll figure that out. As well as we have to cap off the original spot where the filler cap was, so we'll cap that off, put these on, and then we gotta pressure test this thing and make sure there's no leaks, and then we should be done with the radiator. Alright, gotta do a leak test on this thing. Now I'm not gonna do full power of the air compressor, which is 150 right now. That's ridiculous. Let's do 50. I'm gonna test it at 50 psi. Well, that wasn't a good noise. Oh, it's the bleeder valve. I was about to say, did it pop already? Let me just hold that with my finger. Oh, oh, okay, that startled the crap out of me. Yeah, it was just this plug that I had in the hose right here. It just came out. I got my heart going. Oh man. Yeah, I think it's good. I don't see any leaks aside from this this fitting. It's not the weld, but it's the hose. It's just leaking, and I just need to tighten it a little bit more. So I think it's good. I didn't see any leaks, which is a miracle, so that's awesome. Dare I say it, I think my aluminum welding is getting better. Alright, radiator is done. Only took me 3 days to modify this thing, but let's put it back in the frame. Yeah, we're making some progress. We got 3 days of work to cross one thing off our list. Nice. Now, next thing is let's work on the dash bar. All right, so this bar is what I'm talking about. It's like a dashboard, but it's a bar, so dash bar. Now, I want to redo this. It's a little bit too low. I want to cut this off, make a new one that's a little bit higher. A little bit further forward that way. It's not going to affect my view of in front of this vehicle. I'm already putting body paneling over this whole thing. So raising this up is not going to affect that. But it's going to make it to where I have more room for the instrument cluster. That's going to go right here. It's going to be mounted. I want to have it mounted like right here instead of down here. Because I also want to connect with tubing these. I want to connect this up to here. And to have room for this, it's going to have a bend right about here, so it's going to be a little bit bigger, and I want to have more room for switches and everything, and I want to move it a little bit further forward to have more room for the shifter of the engine, as well as the ace pattern that's going to have to go right here for the secondary transmission. So let's cut this off, raise it up a little bit, about 2.5, maybe 3 inches, and like move it forward about 1.5 inches or 2 inches, something like that. Alright, so this is the old one compared to the new one. Yeah, the new one, we raised it up about like 2 inches, as well as brought it forward about 1.5 inches. So I'd say it's perfect. Alright, we're knocking some stuff off the list, finally. We got the dashboard done, the dash bar is done, as well as radiator. Now, I think next, let's work on the bump stops. Check it out. So these are the bump stops that I bought for this project. These are pneumatic bump stops. All trophy trucks and really good, expensive off-road vehicles use this kind of bump stop. So I really wanted to buy these for this project. Now, these kind of look like Fox, and these kind of look like King bump stops, but they're not. They are some other way cheaper brand. I originally was looking at the price of Fox bump stops, and I'm like, those are pretty much the same price as what I bought the King coilovers for the front suspension. But I found these at like half the price, and they look the same. They probably work the same too. These are for the front. These have 2 inches of travel, and then these are for the rear. These have 4. We're gonna have to machine a piece of tubing for this to fit into, and then these collars tighten down on it. And then these came with this kind of thing that we weld onto the frame. So yeah, first let's get the rear installed. So, first thing is we need to figure out exactly where on the trailing arm the bump stop is going to be contacting the trailing arm. I think it's going to be like the best spot is just somewhere right in here. So we need to add a piece of tubing going across here and then add a little metal disc. So therefore the bump stop has something to contact. And then once we do that, we need to raise the frame 4.5 inches because this has 4 inches of travel, but we want it to where when the bump stop collapses, the shock still has about 1/2 inch before the shock collapses. So we're going to raise the frame 4.5 inches off the ground from the distance where the bump stop's going to be contacting on the trailing arm. That is where the bump stop needs to be mounted, right there. Alright, right there is 4.5 inches. So right here is where we need to mount the bump stop, right there. Alright, got both sides put in place. Let's see if it'll hold the weight of this thing. Well, they're kind of working. To really be able to test these, we got to drive this thing and jump it to really see if these actually make a difference with landing and everything. I'm hoping that we can adjust the stiffness that these are by just adjusting the amount of nitrogen these have, because these are probably built for a vehicle that is way heavier than this thing. Yeah, these are nitrogen charged, so I think we can just adjust how stiff they are by just adjusting the amount of pressure that these have. Alright, the rear is done. Let's move on to working on the front. Now these are designed to fit inside a pipe, and then you tighten these down, and it's also adjustable, which is kind of cool. So I found this is a piece of pipe that almost is perfect size. We are going to have to machine this a little bit to get this to fit on here. So I'll cut we probably only need like 2 4-inch sections, then we'll machine it to fit on here, and then we can weld this onto the frame. Alright, so this is the absolute lowest that the frame can go. Now these only have 2 inches of travel, so once I weld this little metal disc right on here, I'm just going to put it right there. I'll measure the distance between here and here, and then raise the frame up 2.5 inches, and then that is where to mount the bump stop. Alright, I want to see if I can get this to stay in place with a piece of string. I have no idea if this is going to work. Alright, that's not going to work. Let me try something else. Let's try it with wire instead of string. Alright, we got both front bump stops in place. We got most of them tight together. We're going to have to do a bar going from here down to here somewhere, but I'm not sure how we're going to do that because the shock's right here. So let's put the shocks back in place, lift this thing back up, and we'll figure out how to connect, down to here. So I was curious what this looked like. So I took the tire off. Look at that. You can see it's kind of moving. Look at that. It seems to be working. Now, we're not done with the front bump stops because I don't think just 2 pieces of tubing right here is going to be strong enough to keep this from bending and flexing out of the way when the front suspension hits this. So we need to somehow connect this down to here to strengthen it. Now, pretty much the only spots that I can add tubing is pretty much like right here. Can you guys see that? Not really. Hang on. Pretty much the only spot that we can put a piece of tubing is going from this corner of the frame right down there, right there, going up to here. I will have to put a bend in it right here to clear the top A-arm, but yeah, this is going to strengthen this up a lot and make it to where this will actually be able to survive impact. So we got 4 of the 9 things on this list done. We got the radiator installed, we got the bump stops installed, we got the dash bar, dashboard. These 2 were pretty easy. So next we have sway bar, secondary sway bar, gas tank, finish cross bracing, as well as finish engine mounts. These 2 are probably going to take the longest. Making a gas tank always kind of takes a long time, as well as finishing the cross bracing. There's a lot more tubing I want to add to this frame, so these are probably going to take a little bit of time. So now we're going to try and finish this list in the next video of this project, so therefore the video after that we can fully weld the frame together and finally finish the frame. But yeah, we'll do that in the next video of this project. So for now, I guess that's it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video.